Hey, what's up, comrades? We're here to talk about the light novel of Overlord, Volume 2. Excellent, excellent series. The anime was great. Oh, the light novel's so good. All right, so we start with a little prologue. It's pretty much just kind of recaps Book 1. Go ahead and watch that video if you really want to know what's going on there. It's been 8 days since they came to this world. The tomb of Nazarick and Ains and everybody else. And we have Shelt here. She comes in to like the conference room or whatever, and then her and Albedo are fighting about who's sexier because both are hot. And then Ains is finally like, all right, enough of that. Shalter, I'm sending you off on like the secret mission. And she's like, I know, I wanted to come say goodbye. And so then she heads off, and then Ains summons Demiurge to talk about the next steps for the tomb and for the tomb of Nazarick and such. And then we skip over to a rant tell where two adventurers are whispering about Momon, the Dark Warrior. He's got full plate mail and two large swords and everything. And then there's Nabe. Nabe's got subtle Asian beauty. And Momon is actually Ains, if you've never seen the anime or anything, pretending to be like a warrior so he can like learn more about the world and be involved with his guild and make some money and stuff. And then Nabe is actually a Pleiades. Her name is like it's like Navralu or something. Anyway, but the Pleiades are like the battle maids of the Tomb of Nazarick. There's like 13 of them. The Pleiades are like, has something to do with astrology. My wife was in some group in college that was called like the Pleiades, and it's like a woman thing. I don't know much about it, to be completely honest, but I do know it like comes up in like astrological, and it's like feminine kind of stuff, like comes up stuff. Anyway, so the whole reason for this, as I mentioned, is that he wants to go see the world, learn some more stuff. We kind of flash back a little bit. He's talking to Albedo about it. She gets super mad, and the Demiurge like whispers something to her, and she's like, "Oh, that's a great idea." And I'm just like, "What the fuck are they talking about?" Anyway, and he kind of reconfirms that like, "Hey, I want to see things for myself. I don't want to get secondhand information. I just want to. It's easier for me to make evaluations if I see exactly what's going on." Also, he's concerned because if he had sent out like Albedo or anybody else, all his minions, all the members of like the Tomb of Nazarick think humans are just like garbage and trash. Like Nabe mentions it like constantly while they're just out doing stuff, and he's like, "Shut the fuck up," and pretend to be human. And she's like, "Ugh." And so he had to come to like keep him in check. Anyway, so after they're hanging out like at an adventurers guild, and then they head over to an inn, and we find out that they are copper level adventurers. That there's like the whole guild system has like levels. Obviously, it's like copper, silver, gold, platinum, mithril, oraculum, and adamantite, I think those are the levels. Anyway, iron's after copper. Anyway, so it goes up and up and up. So that you can kind of, the adventurers can kind of judge each other. The Adventurers Guild operates outside of like any governmental force in like the whole area. And they pretty much are just like monster cleanup crews, essentially. So they are helpful, especially in Rantel, not in Rantel's the city, in like the kingdom. Maybe the Rantel's the name of the kingdom. Anyway, they're helpful in like the kingdom here because they're kind of weak ass. So they take care of a lot of the stuff that like they don't need soldiers who are constantly being like readied for like the war with the Empire and stuff. Anyway, so in the end, it's mostly like copper and iron plate guys, and some iron plate guy tries to trip Ains, and so he picks him up and throws him across the room, which breaks a table that some redheaded chick is sitting at, and everyone's like, "Holy shit!" And then they're about to walk out, but then that redheaded adventurer who like she had some sort of healing potion, she's like freaking out because she spent all her money on that healing potion and she really needed it, and yada yada, and they're super expensive, and so Ains is like, "All right, fine." I mean, you should get that guy to pay for it, but here you go, and he gives her like one of the most minor, like it's one of those. Like in a MMORPG, you have like a million of these healing potions because they do shit, and you're just like lying around. So he gives her one of those, and they're red, and she's like, "Holy shit, it's red!" And then they leave, and then she wanders over to the innkeeper and is like, "Hey, did you see this?" And he's like, "Yeah, you need to go talk to this alchemist. I'm going to set you up with who's like the top alchemist in the whole city." And she's like, "Awesome." Anyway, back to Ains and Nabe. They talk about stuff in the inn room about what's going on, and then she's like, "I don't understand why we're here. What's going on? What's the point of joining the guild?" And Ains like explains it all to her, and it's the best way to get to know people, but to know the world, to build up some reputation so they can get more information, so they can get in the know with like higher ups around here, and kind of like it's kind of like a spy tactic or whatever. And we learn that even though like the adventurers are useful for being like monster exterminators, that a lot of nations still don't use them. And then Nabe keeps being like, "Yes, my lord. Yes, Lord Ains." And he's like, "Please just call me Momon. Please stop calling me Lord." And she's like, "Yes, Lord Momon." And he's like, "Oh, Jesus Christ." And also, they need money because the money they have from Yggdrasil is not the same money here, and they don't want to kind of stand out. So if they can get some money here, maybe they can use it for other things as well. Like maybe the money will be used. They can use the new money in this world in like spells and crap like that as components. Um, and so then he goes to like wander around town and stuff. And so Nabe contacts Albedo. We learn uh, that the Pallades have like a poll about who should be the number one wife for Ains or something, and that they're split 50-50. Some think it should be Shaltir, some think it should be Albedo. And so they talk about that, and they kind of talk around Shaltir's secret mission. Anyway, over at the adventurer girl who got the potion, she takes it to Inferia. Inferia is the grandson of the best alchemist in town, and he's got some alchemist like special abilities that he was born with. And she's some old crone. So he checks it out, and then he reads a letter from the innkeeper, and then shows it to his nana, who freaks the fuck out. And she explains that there are 3 types of potions. There's herbal-only healing potions, there's herbal and magical, and then there's just magical. And just magical ones are blue, because they have a lot of imperfections or whatever. And this one is red, which is, like, there are red healing potions, but that they're so rare that it's, like, virtually, they virtually don't exist. And so she offers this iron plate adventurer lady like 32 gold pieces, which is like enough to sustain a family of 3 for like 3 years. So it's a lot of fucking money. Meanwhile, back over at Ains and Nabe, they're all set up with the Adventurers Guild later trying to figure out a quest, but they both realize they cannot read the text here somehow. And then we get like some information about how like he's noticed that he doesn't, and this was brought up in the other book too, that he notices that they're not speaking the same language, but that for some reason, like because of magic bullshit, he can understand what they're saying and they can understand what he's saying, like anybody here, but that the words on the lips don't like match up, right? Which is kind of awkward. And so he's trying to figure out what to do because he wants to choose a quest, but he can't read. So then he decides he's going to walk up to the guild lady and is like, I will take a mithril level job. And she's like, you can't because you're copper. And he's like, please? And she's like, no. And then he's like, well, Nabe over here can do level 3 magic. And everyone's like, holy shit. And I don't know if I brought this up earlier, but the tiers go up to like level 9, and Ains is like a level 9 caster. And so people treat this level 3 like it's like super powerful, and it's very rare. And it's like, huh. And she's like, well, still, no, there's the policy, and we can't upset other adventurers, and yada, yada, yada. So he sighs and asks for, okay, well, give me the most difficult job available to me. And then she's like, all right, here you go. And he's like, all right, I did it. I didn't even have to pretend. I didn't have to even pretend to read or show what I read. And as they're about to head out, this group of silverplate adventurers come up to him, and they want him and Nabe to join them. And he's like, all right, well, let's go discuss. So they go into like this conference room. They introduce themselves. They're like did I write down what they were called here? It's like the Swords of Death or Shadow Swords. I wrote it down later, I'm sure. Anyway, they're a bunch of young guys. There's a Druid Ranger, a Warrior Mage. He introduces Nabe and himself, and then they're like, well, can we see your face? Because he's been wearing like a helmet this whole time. And he's like, sure. So he takes off his helmet, and you're like, oh. But he's obviously using magic to make himself look like he has a human face. And then they agree that they're going to go do this some like monster clearing quest, and that they'll split the returns even because Ains is much stronger than they are, even though he's a copper plate, but they can get a better thing. So it's like, yeah, sounds good. They're about to leave when guess who shows up? Dun, 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 it's Inferia. He wants Ains specifically, or he wants Momon specifically to escort him to this other town because. And then Ains is like, well, I can't. I have other commitments. And the group is like, mad respect, but still, you should. This is like one of the top alchemists in the town. He'll probably make a lot more money, and yada yada yada. So I was like, all right, everyone back to the conference room. Literally. And so they talk, and they agree to like combine both quests, and that they both split everything to help. They're going to help Inferia get over to this area, and on the way they'll kill these monsters to finish their quests and stuff. So Inferia hires the silver plates as well, so everyone wins. Elsewhere, this like super crazy lady Clementine, which people have a real like I can fix her vibe about, right? Even though she's like in this one book and like in a couple episodes in the show, but I remember this coming up a lot. Like I can fix her, and it's like, dude, she's nuts. She used to be a member of the Black Scripture, and she's like super good at fighting. She's the equivalent of like a mithril level fighter or a Oraculum or something. Anyway, she's stolen some tiara from somebody. And we learned that the theocracy uses these crowns to turn girls into fonts of magical energy so they can cast greater spells and whatnot. But then when they are possessed by this thing, it makes them go like completely crazy. But like, who gives a fuck about them, right? Anyway, it's hard to find someone to use these things because they have to have like an innate magical ability, and they have to be willing to like give up their souls or whatever. But they this necromancer guy who's here talking to her, he specifically has discovered like Inferi has the ability to use like all magic items. That's like a built-in ability he has, so he can just like equip like whatever magic items and be able to use them, even though there's like proficiencies and shit in this world. So they can just steal him, use the crown, and then they can turn him into a font of magic, and then this necromancer can use it for his like nefarious deeds. And we find out that both these guys, this necromancer and I can't remember his name, and then Clementine, are members of some other like shady organization. Anyway, back to Ains. They travel. They ask a lot of questions about the world, about magic, how this stuff works. The ranger guy flirts with Nabe a lot, who keeps starting to murder him, and he gets more turned on by this. She even drops Albedo's name at some point, and then Ains gets super mad about it because they're supposed to keep everything quiet. Then they get accosted by some goblins and ogres. They game plan a little bit, and then Ains sees that the group works very well together. But then Nabe and him just like murder all the enemies anyway, and everyone's very impressed. They set up camp later. Chat a bit more about magic and learning magic, and then Nina, who's the wizard, and I wrote down that it's obviously a girl pretending to be a boy, but then later Ains like gets him naked, and it's a boy. It's just like a very feminine little boy. So I guess they showed me. Oh man. Anyway, he mentions his master can sense magical abilities, and that's how he got found. And so Ains is very interested and would like to meet them so he can see like what his magical ability is in this world and how it all relates to it. So they chat about working as a team, and Ains gets romantic about like he reminisces about his old guild, and someone asks him about it, and then he gets like kind of turned off by the whole situation, and then he kind of goes off on his own to be sad and angry, and he's just pretending to eat by himself with Nabe. And then he explains to Nabe. Or he explains to them that like they in their religion they can't eat with like people who are not of the religion, so they always eat by themselves because they don't eat, right? So it'd be weird if they just didn't eat. And so they go and they talk about after he leaves, the group talks about how powerful Ains is, and how ladies love power, and even though his human face is not that attractive, he could probably get with chicks. And then Neferi gets like super concerned because the village they're going to, there's a girl he likes, and he doesn't want Ains or Momon to steal her away from him and whatnot. Elsewhere, Clementine is torturing some guys, and she's using like mind control and some other stuff on them. She says some crazy like Joker level stuff from like The Dark Knight about her past and about how she loves murder. And again, she talks about being in like the scriptures, like the theocracy, like the most powerful elite forces that Ains beat the shit out of before, and how she like decided to come join this group instead because she loved murder so much, like a crazy lunatic that she is. Eventually, back over to Ains, they eventually get to the village. And there's this huge fence that wasn't there before. And then Nabe flies over to see, and she's like, well, there's nothing unusual. People are just like chilling and doing their thing. So the team approaches with caution, and then they get ambushed by a bunch of goblins. But they're much more impressive goblins than the ones before. They have like armor and organization, and they're clearly like a higher level. And then Ains recognizes them as being from the horn that he gave to Henri. Or Henri? I think it's Henri. And then they mention that because of the attack, that Henri like summoned them, and these goblins like last forever. That's part of their like magic. They're not that strong. They're strong in this world, but like in Urgaso, they weren't that strong, and they kind of last forever, and they can just be used as like minions forever. And then Inferi is like freaking out because of the mention in the attack and because of the goblin thing, and then Henri shows up, and Ains is like, oh, this is the village. Oh, she's here. Oh, that's right. She did mention like an alchemist friend, and then we get like an intermission. Like the middle of the chapter. I don't know why it's an intermission, but they have these in like all the books. And then during the intermission, we flip over to Demiurge and Albedo and everybody over at the tomb. Sorry, my notes like did something weird. Give me a sec. Okay. So Demiurge is going to see Albedo before he heads out on like his secret mission, and he runs into the assistant butler, who's this penguin, who's delightful. His name's Eclair, and his whole background is that someday he's going to overthrow Ains and become the ruler of Nazarique, but it's like never really going to happen. So it's kind of he's like a joke character, like the person who made him just made him as like it's like a funny quirk that he always talks about how he's going to overthrow, and he always tries to get people to like do it, but he's like super loyal and like with the best butler in the whole world or whatever. And so him and Demiurge chat. It's like humor ensues, and then he finds Albedo making Ains's bed, like marking his bed with her scent, like rubbing her like tits and everything all over it, and she has a body pillow of Ains that she's like making sweet love to. And so they talk about Demiurge's departure and how that just leaves Calcidas and her back at the place, and she's like, oh, also my sisters, and he's like, oh yeah. And then Demiurge makes a comment about her sister, about something about needing permission or something, and then he leaves to go find Mari and Ara along with Sebes and another Pleiades. Then he leaves, and we find out that Mari, Ara, and Sebes along with another Pleiades are also out on a mission. Back over with Clementine and the necromancer guy. They're going back and forth. They clearly don't like each other. They threaten each other a lot. They talk about Inferia being out of town. Clementine just wants to go kill the grandmother, but eventually he convinces her not to. Then we head over to the village, Henri's village. And Inferia goes to talk to Henri. She tells him everything about Ains, not about Momon, but about Ains, the wizard. And he gets super jealous. And tries to tell her that he loves her, but he can't because he's a little bitch. And then he hears her talking about a red healing potion that he used, and he puts the two together, realizes that Momon, the Black Knight, and the Wizard Ains are the same thing because he's a pretty smart guy. So he heads over to see him and thanks him for saving the village. And Ains gets like super concerned, but he gets him to promise. He gets Henri or Inferia to promise not to tell anybody about the whole situation, which he agrees to. Then he runs off. Nabe apologizes for mentioning Albedo's name. And that's part of the reason that Inferia was able to put two together. It wasn't just the potion, but it was a potion and the person named Albedo that was around. And she's like, I will kill myself. And he's like, dude, get some fucking chill, girl. Like, damn, bitch, just be crazy. So then head out to collect the herbs that Inferia hired him for all these potions and stuff. While they're out, they talk about how there seems to be an issue with the wise king of the forest. And Momon and Nabe head out to look around and see what's going on with that. They meet up with Aura, who he summoned to like check out this wise king of the forest. And Aura's like, oh yeah, I found him. She's going to drive him over to Momon, and then he'll capture the king or defeat the king, and that'll make him even more famous. And then when she does, we find out that it's a giant hamster, and Ains beats the shit out of it because it's only like level 30, which is weaker than like his average minion at the back of the place. And so it beats the shit out of it. I think it's supposed to be a girl. She joins him. Anyway, so then he takes the King of the Forest back out to meet with everybody else, and they show that like, oh, the Wise King of the Forest is under my control now. And then Inferia gets like super concerned about taking the Forest Defender away because it's part of what protects like the people in the village and all that stuff. But the Wise King of the Forest really wants to join Moment's party. Let's see. And so they talk about that, and then we get the whole crew returns back to town. Ains has named the giant hamster King of the Forest guy Hamsky, because he's a giant hamster, and is riding him, and he's like, I look so ridiculous, but everyone sees him's like, oh my gosh, he's riding like a legendary monster. That is so incredible. That is so cool. Anyway, they get back to the town, and then they make a little split up. Oh, the Swords of Darkness, that's what they're called. The little silver plated guys that joined him. So the Swords of Darkness go off with Inferia to like unload all the goods and finish doing all the alchemist stuff, while Ains has to go register Hamsky with like as a magical beast with like the guilds or something. And then while they're doing that, he's thinking about the whole playing a warrior and all that stuff, and how it's just like magic tricks, like he's not a warrior at all and whatnot. Anyway, elsewhere, back over at Inferia's like grandma's place, the Swords of Darkness help. They finish unloading everything, and then Inferia's thinking about that it's super odd that his grandmother's just not around. And then Clementine shows up. Oh no! And she kills all the Swords of Darkness and kidnaps Inferia. And at first the guys are like, we can take her, let's fight. And then the necromancer shows up behind, so they get ambushed and they're fucked. Back over with Ains and Nabe, they register Hamsky, and then they run into Inferia's grandmother. They chat a little bit, and he's like, oh, I'm headed over there. I'll take you to the shop. So they go over there, and they find the Swords of Darkness all dead and turned into zombies, and there's no Inferia. So grandma's freaking out, and so Ains like essentially gets her to like hire him, that she'll like everything she owns belongs to him if he'll take the job and rescue Inferia. And she's like, yes. And so then he's like, go over there, like get out of here, just give me a map and I'll figure it out. And so then he has Nabe use a whole bunch of different kind of like scrolls to like track down the plates that were stolen, like the little signifying plates from the Swords of Darkness guys. So she can figure out exactly where they're at, and then she casts like some clairvoyance spells or whatever, so they can watch it, and they see like a necromantic summoning situation going on in like the graveyard in town. And then there's a scroll on the wall, not a scroll, like someone wrote on the wall, like, oh, hey, we're over in the sewers, you better come find us or something. But it's all a trick, right? And this is the part where he like, he gets Nina like naked for some reason, and there's no indication that it's a girl, that he's like, oh, it's a woman. So I think I was just wrong. Anyway, and they see a whole bunch of undead being gathered and summoned in this area and whatnot. And then Ains is kind of impressed that they summon so many undead because it's more than even he can summon. So he's like, oh. Anyway, it's quite the spectacle. And so Ains gets a call from like one of the other Pleiades, and she's like, hey, I got an important message from Albedo. And he's like, yeah, I'll do it later. And she's like, okay. Excuse me. So then he tells Grandma to go get everybody and go alert the guards and go tell the Adventurers Guild and everybody that there's this huge horde of monsters in the graveyard because he wants everyone to come over there and see and beat the shit out of them. And then they head off. We then get a summary of how the graves function in this world, how there's like constantly a threat of undead, so that there's like a group of guards specifically assigned to every graveyard in every like major town, so they can go in there and like sweep up all the low-level undead like every day, so they don't like combine and become stronger or whatever. And then these guards are here at nighttime. They're getting ready to like go out or whatever, and they see this giant horde, and they're like, "Oh, we're fucked." And so they're about to get overwhelmed when Nabe and Ains show up, and they kill the shit out of everybody, including this giant undead that could like a literal giant undead. That's a combination of all these other undead. And then they're killing the shit out of them. The guards are watching, and they get a little bit far away. And Nabe's like, "This is taking too much time," or Ains is like, "This is taking too much time." And she's like, "Just summon some random guys and have them go." So he summons a couple other undead and has them just start clearing up the rest of this stuff, so they can head over to the. Then they head over to like the summoning circle where the necromancers are all at, and they banter with the head necromancer for a bit. And then Clementine comes out, and they go back and forth a little bit more. And she thinks about how there are only 5 fighters better than her in all the land, and one of them is the guard captain Gazet Strain, Gazov Strain from the first book. And then Ains is like, "All right, you and me come over here and we'll fight, and Nabe will take care of all these wizards and whatnot." So then we start the Nabe fight, and we get a shonen anime battle finally. And she kills all the minions, like all the sub-necromancers in like one shot. And then the guy summons a bone dragon, and bone dragons are particularly difficult because they're immune to all like tier 3 magic or below, but obviously Nabe is not a tier 3 magic user. She's like a tier 6 magic user. So fuck those dragons. So Nabe and the dragons fight, and she's just like hitting them and like using sword attacks and stuff like that. And the necromancer keeps healing it, and that's annoying her. And he rants about charging up power and using the black stone to summon, and then he uses this black stone to summon like another Dracolich. And he's like, "Oh no, now you're in trouble." Or not. Because after getting knocked around for a bit, she hears Ains to tell her to like unleash her true power, and so she transforms into like her Pleiades maid form and blasts the shit out of the dragons, like destroying them completely. She then strikes Necromancer down as well, and right before he dies, we learn from his memories that he started down the path of magic because his mom died, and he wanted to become like a faith magic user so he could resurrect her, bring her back, but that wouldn't work because she was dead for too long or some shit. So then he found about death magic, and he's like, "Oh, if I turn myself into an undead, I can have like eternity to try to find a way to like resurrect her, and I can be with mommy again." So he's a mommy con, so good stuff. So once that whole like rant is over and his backstory and whatnot, we switch back over to Ains and Clementine, and then it's like back in time before the announcement that they were gonna like unleash their true power. Him and Clementine, she's like super powerful. She's got like her armor is just like all these plates sewn into like scale mail essentially from all different adventurers, and there's even some like mithril and orichalcum plates on there as well. For a warrior, she's very powerful, and Ains is like, I definitely can't beat her. As a warrior, but you know he's not a warrior, so it doesn't matter. So he's like, "Oh, you're very weak. I'm going to give you a handicap so that you have a chance." And they start fighting, and then Ains eventually is like, "I'm getting bored." So he calls out. This is when he calls out to Nabe, and then he changes from Momon into Ains, and he kills the shit out of her. It's like a magic user, right? So afterwards, they loot the place. They find a living item. It's like the stone that like is talking to him, and it's the black stone that he used to summon the Dracolich. And he's like, "Oh, I can't really use this. It's annoying." So he gets it to Hamsky. They then find Inferi with the crown thing they were talking about earlier. He has to destroy it. Inferi was also blinded, but he cures that without any problems. And there's a humorous scene with Hamsky being surprised by Ains' true form. They then wrap up and head out so they can get their costumes set up again and, you know, receive their praises and accomplish all the stuff they want to accomplish. And this kind of leads to the end of the book, the epilogue. And in the epilogue, Ains and Nabe become mythic plate adventurers. And then the guild is like, "You're actually like adamantite level based on all this stuff you've done, but we can't just like, if we push you up too fast and too hard, that's going to cause problems. So we're just going to start here." And then he's like, "Yeah, that's fine, whatever." And then, so it's a secret that there actually are adamantite plate adventurers, but only the guild like heads up know about it because again, like it would just cause some issues. And then the guild wants to like investigate all the issue some more so they can have like more convincing evidence. So when they make them adamantite, they have like a justification for it. Ain talks to Nabe about Inferia and his grandmother and how Inferia is doing fine. He's still kind of like a little mentally not all there because of like the trauma of seeing all those guys killed and everything else that was going on, but they're okay. He is going to move them to the human village where Henri can like take care of them and whatnot, and they're gonna start making potions for him exclusively. He then calls Albedo back, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta call Albedo back. There was some shit that was going on that I figure out." And then as soon as he calls, she's like, "Oh, I got some bad news. Shaltir has staged a rebellion." What? And that wraps up Volume 2. So go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.